Substance use disorder have massive effects not only on the user, but their family members as well. Children who witness their parents fighting an addiction can affect the child's emotional well-being and damage them intellectually. Alcohol and drug abuse also weakens the bonds of parents with their children and may cause their trust within the family to diminish. Children begin to put up walls around them as they become more conscious of the aggressive behavior that is put on them by their intoxicated parents. While parents are under the influence of alcohol and drugs, their children have to endure their anger, rage, mood swings, which can cause distress and other deeply underlying trauma. Parents fighting addiction also tend to abandon their children, which can cause irreplaceable damage to the kids as well. We know that many of you are tuning in during your lunch hour, so let's chat and chew while you do. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Glenn Warren, the founder of Fathers Forever. Welcome to today's episode of Chat and Chew. Children tend to learn from their environments and imitate their elder. Continual substance abuse by a parent or both parents also has disturbing effects on the children as they take on them habits themselves. According to a survey, children of alcoholic parents are more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol themselves than those children of non-alcoholic and drug parents. It takes a lot of determination and self-control to battle addiction. Staying sober becomes an important task and is one of the greatest things parents can do for their children. No matter how many times a parent has failed, I had a relapse, they must pick themselves up and try once again to fix the addiction. The first signs of recovery is that parents have to realize that there is a problem of addiction and they are prepared to make the necessary change. It is important that parents remind themselves of why they are staying alcohol and drug free. It's for the sake of their children and their well-being as well. In today's episode of Chat and Chew, we're going to be talking to James Ward, owner of Sigma Health Services. But before we make that introduction, let's take care of a few housekeeping items. To our viewers, please make sure you follow us on Facebook, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course, hit the bell to activate notification that will remind you when we are on. Please be sure to leave a comment and let us know how we're doing. We'd love to hear from you.
Fathers Forever has improved my circumstances for a better life.
Fathers Forever has made me the parent that I want to be.
Fathers Forever has shown me that there are people out here that do care. They care about you and they will help you if you want to help yourself.
Fathers Forever is all about healing fathers and saving families.
Fathers Forever is all about healing fathers and saving families.
I am sure that Fathers Forever is all about healing fathers and saving families.
James Ward is the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director of Sigma Health Services, LLC, located in Raleigh, North Carolina. He has developed a passion for giving back to the community, mentoring youth, and teaching financial literacy and entrepreneurship. He's a results-driven marketing and sales management professional with over 15 years of technical sales and corporate account and product management experience in utilities and telecommunications. James is a North Carolina native and has a master's degree in business administration and a Bachelor of Arts from North Carolina A&T State University. After graduating from North Carolina A&T, he was recruited to work as a business development manager for Progress Energy. After leaving Progress Energy, he returned to school for a computer programming degree. He then went to work for Nextel Sprint Corporation for nearly 9 years and led the corporate data and sales channel. James later worked for ABB, a division of Elster Gas North America, as the Senior Product Manager of Gas North America before transitioning into the mental health field, where he was inspired to expand on his education again, becoming more interested in improving the wellness of the population. James serves on several boards and organizations in leadership positions. He is a member of the 100 Black Men of America and serves as a co-chair of the Economic Empowerment Mentoring Committee. He's also the president of the Visionaries Group, member of the board of directors for the Gardner Road YMCA, a member of the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and the Wake County Public School Business Alliance chair. In 2013, he was recognized by Spectacular Magazine for Man of the Year award in the field of health. James is currently the owner of Sigma Health Services, which he founded in February of 2009. His current business model has been developed based on several factors, in which his corporate training has provided a firm foundation for the operational and financial aspect of maintaining a successful business. James Ward's past experience in operations management at Progress Energy and Nextel Sprint prepared him for the challenges of staffing, employee motivation, retention, accountability, teamwork, training, profit and loss, economies of scale, and other business principles. His philosophy is that in building an organization, it is crucial to ensure the structure is adaptable and flexible. By anticipating changes in the economy and trends in services, an organization can develop a structure that is scalable for the future. James is also very involved in the community, especially in mentoring African American males and supporting school-based efforts. As a mentor through his membership in 100 Black Men of America, James's focus has been on health and wellness and financial literacy. His motto is, "We have to meet them where they are and lift them to where they need to be."
And now, join me in the studio is Mr. James Ward. Today in the studio, as I mentioned earlier, my guest is Mr. James Ward from Sigma Health Services, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, James, we're going to get into some discussions today. And before I get into one of the questions I always ask my audience, I want to ask you, what is your why? What is, you are, when I look at your resume, and the audience is going to see that resume and hear that resume in a few minutes, and all the accolades that you've done in the past and all the stuff you've done, you could be anywhere doing a lot of other things. And we're going to talk about today our subject is substance abuse. Okay. We're going to get into that, but I want to ask you, what motivates you? What is the why that gets you up every morning to come and sit out and just help people in their dysfunction and help them work out some things in their life? What is your why?
Well, thank you, Glenn. I think, or Dr. Warren, should I say, I think my why is that, I truly love what I do. Again, I truly love what I do. Okay. And I think when you get something that you love and it's not really work, it's something that you love to do. Now, does it come with headaches and challenges?
Yes,
definitely.
Yes.
And more importantly, when you love what you do, especially in the field of mental health and substance abuse, sometimes you want it more than other people. And that's a challenge, with the boundaries and things of that nature. Wow. But I just enjoy what I do and I love what I do. So.
Wow. One of my, I was reading a story, the guy says, when I found out the why I was born, two things is the day that I was born and the why I was born. Okay. And I think a lot of people, we have to find out what's our why. And I think that a lot of times it motivates us especially in the nonprofit world, and even in the business world. If you find your why, your purpose, then you get up every morning with daylight and good morning, Lord, and good morning, to everybody. And instead of I got to get up, dreading to get up, you say I get to get up this morning.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, instead of saying I hate to get up this morning, I get to get up this morning. So Fathers Forever, we celebrate Black History Month all year long. It ain't just February. So we've been talking about Black History Month, February, for the last couple of weeks. So I want to ask you, since it is Black History Month, name a few Black leaders that really had an inspiration on you, both local and national, that you want to tell us about. Who are some of those?
Oh, wow. You would start off with a question like that. I mean, from when I think about in my life, first of all, I would think uh, my dad. I think he's played a significant role in my life, especially being a military man and really pushing education and discipline. And I definitely didn't like the discipline, but it's helped me become a better man. Then I would move on to like national people, more like W.E. Du Bois. So when you think about his push for education, especially for African Americans and Negroes, and when you think about that, that's very significant, in the United States and things of that nature. So thinking about and appreciate W.E. Du Bois from my literature and things of that nature. But then also, of course, you want to think about. I was just down in Memphis not too long ago, and when you think about things that are going on there, but then when you think about Dr. King in Memphis, and then when you think about his platform of racial equality, and then you think about the aspect of nonviolence, and so definitely from that standpoint.
Right. Yeah, that's we interviewed Miss Betty last week, and she said she said the same thing you said, that started out with her parents as being the inspiration. So it's important that that we not just the people on TV but it's our parents. It's
definitely
it's our family. Sometimes they're the one that's the most inspirational to us. So thank you for that. As I was alluding to earlier, you have a long history of businesses that you worked in, Sprint and Nextel and Progress Energy, and you had been a very successful businessman, working in the field, doing different things.
Definitely.
What made you decided to start I know it's not a nonprofit, but what made you decide to go from the business world of incorporations and doing phones and other things, decided to start a healthcare service that's benefiting people who have substance abuse? I mean, we a lot of people, we all know people. So what really drove you to start this business, Sigma Healthcare?
Honestly speaking, I was in agency counseling master's program at North Carolina A&T, and my daughter's born, and I also just got accepted to graduate school MBA program at Wake Forest, and I was really just trying to balance a little bit. And I think that at the time I decided to go more of the business side and down the road, and went to work for Progress Energy. But I think just dealing with just the constant travel with corporate, and also at some point I just kind of hit a wall where spiritually, I was just trying to find something to maintain, my balance, and started kind of going to counseling a little bit, and left corporate America, and I was raising my daughter as a single dad. And so I think that I just needed to find a balance, and starting my own business through a lot of those challenges was the right move for me about 14 years ago, actually about 15 years ago, because I've been open now with Sigma Health Services, 14 years of entrepreneurship. And then, of course, my other company in New Orleans has been open about 8 years. And then, of course, the consulting company I own under Sigma Health Services, I've had about 7 or 8 years, maybe about 8 or 9 years. So when I think about those kind of things, it was more of looking at a balance in my life. And then also kind of going through some spiritual transitions in my life. And now I found what my pleasure, what I enjoy, what I love. But I had to go through something to get to where I'm at now. So I wouldn't change anything in my life right now.
Wow. I mean, that's, when you look into now, in your assessment, in the world that we live in today, what is your assessment of substance abuse in general? Then we're going to narrow it down to the African American block. Let's talk about that. But in general, what is your assessment of the essence of substance abuse?
Yeah, so when we think about substance use disorder, we now call it the term substance use disorder.
Yeah, I got it correct.
So we don't use the word of substance abuse so much now, substance use disorder.
Okay.
And so when you think about that, primarily from a national standpoint, sometimes things don't really hit home. Okay, but it's prevalent, it's out there.
Right.
And when you start to reduce it and move it more into our demographics, into our local area, things like that, and you start to see the amount of overdoses, you start to see things that are really happening in your community, you see it in your families, and now it's real because now you can touch on it, or if somebody was here today and they're gone tomorrow.
Right.
So you know that it's not just a crisis that just plagued us. It's now a national epidemic when you start talking about some of the things that they talk about with opioids. But let's take it a step back and let's talk about just and primarily in our community.
Right.
In our community, you know, we've always had people that were challenged with substance challenges. And, you know, for a long time, we criminalized those acts.
Right.
Okay, now the difference is that we're now trying to medicalize those things and also look at medicalization of whiteness versus criminalization of blackness. So we always saw the low-level offenses of African-American getting pulled over, incarcerated for marijuana and things like that, whether they call it reasonable doubt or reasonable suspicion or anything of that nature. And so now we're starting to see it with our young people, and I don't want to go ahead of the segment, but you're actually seeing them touch a lot more harmful drugs where it used to just be marijuana. Now in our minority communities, you're seeing pills, you're seeing illicit drug use, you're seeing suicide ideation at a high level. And before we thought that it wasn't really prevalent with minorities, but it is prevalent.
Wow. So, you know, when we was coming up, I guess you and I probably close to the same age.
Okay.
You know, give or take a few years. So probably a little bit older than you are. But, you know, back in the day, it used to be weed. You know, you smoked a little bit of weed, you got hungry and you went to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, that was the essence of, you know, but now it's much worse than that.
Yeah.
It's not just the substance, but it's laced with deadly stuff like fentanyl.
Yes, sir.
You know, the crack cocaine, you know, you got a pot of cocaine and then they dumbed it down and made it crack cocaine and it made it affordable, especially for the black community. And we've dived in and had, you know, in your experience in working with this population, how prevalent is that in the black community? With not only just now with marijuana, but crack cocaine. How much is it really affecting our community?
I would say, you know, looking at some data, I would say that, you know, the African American community now, if there are like overdoses and things of that nature, what I'm seeing is heroin may be laced with fentanyl.
Right.
The crack cocaine epidemic and things like that, you know, I think I'm not seeing that as much. I'm sure it still exists a little bit with the crack, things of that nature. But what we're seeing now from a deadly standpoint is when it's laced with something.
Right.
Especially like fentanyl.
Yes.
And, you know, things of that.
And now you get into opioids. That's when you get into.
And so we get into opioids and things of that nature. And then illicit drug use and pills and things like that. So we got a new challenge now.
Right.
Definitely. And before, when you looked at demographics of Southeast Raleigh, it might be marijuana, but now people are able to access all types of drugs, especially through social media. And you'll be surprised how people know each other are linked. Or then, as I learned recently, people use the plug.
Wow.
So that's the connect.
Wow. So now how do you connect, you know, the mental health component to the substance abuse? Where do those two cross?
Now, that's okay. So from where, you know, I can speak on my company, Sigma Health Services. So what our data has led us to see, we have probably a 70% correlation of co-occurring disorders or dual diagnoses where people have a mental health a challenge as well. It could be anywhere from being bipolar and also self-medicating and using substance. So you have to be able to treat in those regards. A lot of times you got to be able to treat the mental health as well as the substance issue. In some cases, it's more prevalent that substance abuse is more on the front end versus the mental health. And then you have a lot of young people that give themselves self-diagnoses in their minds, and they say, okay, you know, Mr. Ward, I use marijuana because it just calms me down.
Right.
Okay. Did you get prescribed? Did you go to a doctor or a therapist or a psychologist to get, you know, an assessment done? You know, because a lot of times things are going on inside that we might be able to treat from a holistic standpoint. We might be able to work with things naturally, or they may be where doctors give you some type of medication. But again, it's dangerous if you're self-medicating.
Right. Well, and my, you know, we worked together for a while in different things, but a lot of times a person is hearing voices and, you know, got a mental illness, but they self-medicate by using the drugs to get them high, to drown out the voices.
Yeah.
So you got like you said, they're duly diagnosed.
Yeah.
But you can't really treat the mental health part of it because of the substance abuse.
Yeah. And there's some advanced therapies, you know, that may work with something like, so when we talk about trauma-informed therapy, CBT, trauma-focused therapy, and things of that nature, because what we realize, some people have a childhood adverse effect where they've dealt with some type of trauma and it's traumatic and it's playing out, later in life and things of that nature, and that's causing them to self-medicate. So we got to be able to treat that trauma. Right. Things of that nature. There's some more advanced types of therapies too, EMDR, I believe, and stuff like that. So we do know therapy has some places where it's working. But again, I think the best thing for an individual to do in those types of cases, even if they have a psychosis or things of that nature, is get evaluation from a psychiatrist and then let the therapeutic part try to take place and support those things.
Right. So in the field that we work in, we work with guys, a lot of guys that come straight from prison, and a lot of time their crime is connected to their addiction.
Yes, sir.
So now they go out and they do breaking and entering to get money to buy drugs. Have you seen, is there a increase in those activities, you think, in the last, in general, before COVID?
Yeah.
And then we talk about that after COVID.
Yeah.
So, and you've been doing this for 10, 12 years.
Yes, sir.
So talk about if you notice an increase before COVID, and then we're going to talk about the increase after COVID, because I think it went up after COVID.
So I would say from our office location and what we see, I think there's been a slight increase. And then working with Fathers Forever and working with the clients that are coming out of incarceration that have some type of substance use disorder, you want to minimize the criminality. And so by doing that, you want to start trying to work with them on therapy. So when they come back into society, we're working on that mental health or that substance abuse part. So then when they face those triggers, those triggers, whatever they may be, they're able to deal with those triggers from a refusal standpoint, or maybe their basic needs are being met, like their housing and stability or work and things like that. Right. So we're trying to push more of a positive progression to them to make sure there's no relapse in those types of areas. Right. Because, a lot of times when unfortunately they have a stigma of crime associated with them, a lot of times they don't know how to navigate and get the help they need and the resources they need. And then they come out with no insurance. Right. And so a lot of times there's challenges. But however, I do think that eventually, Medicaid expansion, I believe today I read something that at some point may pass through the Senate and the House here in North Carolina, which would ensure another 600,000 people of North Carolina population. Wow. So we can continue to try to do things from a legislative and funding standpoint as well. Yes.
Yeah. So with now post-COVID, we know, for a year, 2 years, everybody pretty much shut down. People was home. We're going to get into the kids part in a few minutes, but parents were dealing with this from a survival standpoint. Yeah. We gotta feed our family. We gotta, not only that, our health is at risk as well, because we catching COVID too. We're getting sick. Yeah. How did that affect the uptick, in your opinion, and people turning to substance?
I would say definitely. I would say whether it's boredom, isolation, any of those kind of things could attribute to someone wanting to continue to substance use or start to experiment with substance use. So I definitely think that we're seeing, from our census, our amount of referrals has definitely increased. Oh, really? And we get quite a few referrals from the hospital, Wake Med, in partnership with them. So we get a lot of people that are high acuity and things of that nature. So, and then we've also just got a contract with Alliance Behavioral Healthcare to be a tailored care management agency model. So we work with clients that are more likely to stay in and out of hospitals and things like that. So we're trying to work with that population a lot.
Right. Yeah. The clients that we deal with, 100%, I'm safe to say that come to us, from being incarcerated with some kind of illness.
Yeah.
Whether it's substance abuse by itself, or whether it's a combination of mental illness, certified, paranoid schizophrenic, bipolar, and as well as now they're self-medicating. So the dually diagnosis, we've been working in this field for the last 25 years, and they kind of come together.
Yeah, and then when you think about, and hopefully I'm on the same page with you, but when you start to think about social determinants of health, and you start thinking about food deserts and how important it is for healthy nutrition, and you start thinking about health literacy, people not really understanding their medical claims, understanding their medical process, understanding, how to access care, things of that nature, or, making sure that the whole person care is there, because you want to make sure their primary care is linked to their mental health or things of that nature. So looking at whole person care can make a difference. And then also, again, you have to meet people where they are.
Right.
From your standpoint, Glenn, is the owner and CEO of Fathers Forever, you see a lot of men that are broken and they don't know how to ask for help.
Right.
So sometimes repeating something makes me feel tough or something like that. But the reality is I'm challenged by computers.
Right.
I'm challenged by a lot of things that people take for granted. And so sometimes just admitting that you need help is a great thing that men can do. And there's nothing wrong with therapy. I think a lot of men should seek therapy.
Right. And which is
people in the yeah.
Yeah, before we get into talk about the teenagers, when I first started in this field, working with not just men, but I'll tell you a quick story. I was sitting there, with this guy just as big as me and you are.
Okay.
And I'm this lady's training me how to do assessment. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to this guy, and all of a sudden he busts out crying.
Really?
I mean, and I don't know what to do with this, so I'm just getting started. So I reached up and got a napkin behind me, and I pushed it over and gave it to her. And my mentor, she was looking at me, and she didn't say anything. After the session was over, she looked at me and she said, "Why did you give him a box of tissue?" And I said, "What do you mean, why? He's crying. We got, everything running out of his nose, he's crying. Why are you giving him a box of tissue?" She said, "Well, think about it tonight, and then tomorrow, when we meet again, tell me what happened." So I'm kind of frustrated because, what you getting at?
Yeah.
So I go home, I go to sleep. It's bothering me. I woke up the next morning, before about 2 o'clock in the morning, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. The reason why I gave him that box of tissue is because I wanted him to stop crying.
Oh.
Because I felt uncomfortable with him crying.
Oh, wow.
And so when we a lot of men that we deal with, they don't come and get that help because we've been taught all of our lives that men don't cry.
Yeah, it's true.
You tough up. You tough up. You be tough and you deal with it.
Yeah.
But we need therapy just as much as anybody else do. And one of the things that I really admire about what you're doing is you're able to connect with the guys in the African community to get them that help that they need. That they do need therapy, and there's nothing wrong with seeing a therapist.
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing wrong with being a therapist. And so those were the things that really, really, inspired me to watch you and, excuse me, in action for the last number of years in our partnership with you. And so we're going to shift gears a little bit, still talking about substance abuse, but I want to talk about it in the world of kids now.
Oh, okay.
I want to. Me and Miss Betty talked about her Carol Village thing that she's doing about kids. And so, what do you see substance abuse headed in our youth? What's the increase? Is there an increase?
I think right now it's definitely like when you're working with them and things of that nature. There's no fear. Okay, there's no fear, and a lot of times they're feeling like whatever they learn on social media is the law, or truth, or facts. So a lot of times they think they're subject matter experts, but they really don't understand things from a historical standpoint, especially when you get into addiction and the life of addiction. So from an experimental standpoint, they feel like nothing can harm them.
Right.
I'm willing to deal with the consequences that come with this. But when there's no tomorrow, and they're no longer here, or they see someone directly in front of them that lost their life, then sometimes it can have a traumatic effect on them. And then long term, it could really go into dealing with issues that they really haven't dealt with. Wow. So, when we're starting to look at where they are now, where they may be 10 years from now, we need to really head this off now, because we got to get out in front of them and make sure we're doing prevention services, things of that nature, before they get into the type of usage and things of that nature.
Right. A lot of the old rappers, the young guys, they want to follow that lead, and all they see is, the women, the drugs, the money, the fame, the cars, and they want to live that life.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And they want to, and they feel like if I get intoxicated, I can come up with a rap that's, because I'm in this world that, and Stephen King, one of the prolific writers says, for some reason, people think that creativity and incarceration works together.
No.
He said there's nothing further from the truth than that.
Yeah.
Because you think the more I get, higher I get, the more creative I am.
Yeah.
And I can come up with this rap tune that's out of the world.
Yeah.
But there's the myth. There's no truth to that.
No, there's no truth to that.
And these kids have to realize that getting high doesn't make you a rapper.
Yeah. And another challenge is, and I want to be careful not to speak too much, but maybe from a parent standpoint, trying to tell our kids something and getting back to those conversations at dinner tables and things like that. I think those are important in homes and things like that, because a lot of times the kids, they'll have their headphones on. They really don't want to be part of conversation and things that can really help them at home and really give them some good advice and things like that. They'd rather hear stuff from, friends at school or different places and things like that. But getting back to natural conversations in the household would be, I think that would be a good start.
Right. And so I think we're going to have to wrap up in a few minutes, but I do want to explore this a little bit. When you're trying to parent, trying to be a parent, whether single mom, single father, are both parents, and the parents are regularly getting high and using drugs in front of the kids. We all know the effect that have on kids. What have been your experience in dealing with family who are you having to do some family therapy with the parents and the kids because the parents are getting
sometimes it doesn't come out initially in assessments and different things. So when you're doing an assessment on an adolescent, teenager, a lot of times, when they first use or when they first got drugs and stuff like that, you'll find out later, especially if there's trust associated with those groups or meeting individuals, and you'll find out that the mom's boyfriend or something had the weed in the house. That's how they got their first access, or they saw the mom's boyfriend or both parents, people in the house smoking and doing things. They know where the stash is at.
Wow.
So it's kind of like they're looking at that adult as a hypocrite.
Right.
And a lot of times they're getting the alcohol, the drugs right there from that environment.
Wow.
And then when you have a young parent, a young mother, and she's got, several people that she has parties, she has get-togethers, these kids are seeing that, we just have to do a better job when you think about nurturing parent education and showing that parent how to parent, teaching them things that's important. So I do think in some of those situations, we need to reintroduce nurturing parent education.
Wow, yeah. And that's one of the things that we talk about, the sister says the earlier a person gets hooked on drugs, the harder it is for him to stop.
Without a doubt.
So if you've been introduced to drugs at 13, 14 years old, it's hard for you to quit than the guy who's been introduced to drugs when he was 19.
That's true. And a lot of times you'll find out the first usage of someone, an adolescent, might be 10 or 12 years old. And so, but then when you start working with them from a therapy standpoint, it might be 14 or 15. So they've really had about a 3 to 5 year window that they've been messing with drugs.
Wow.
Before it might even get noted.
Wow. And that's
so now you got 5 years of trying to work with that person, and now they move past experimentation. They're now in the usage phase, and you don't want them to get into the addiction phase.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, what is some of the things that we can do as a community, not just in community as a whole, but also in the Black community? What are the things that we can do now to kind of help not just the teenagers, but the parents and everybody who's dealing with substance abuse?
I think it goes back to what Miss Betty said to you, and I think the previous podcast you did when you're looking at Village of Care, and then you look at the gaps in services, and then you look at strong collaborations like Sigma Health Services along with Fathers Forever. I think collaboration is key, and then finding mindful people or like-minded people to really start working on some of these challenges, because we can't just depend on the government or other things to do these things. We got to be, as a community, be active, but more important, when you have partnerships like ours, we're really looking and making sure that the whole person is healthy. So when Fathers Forever and Sigma get together, Sigma's working on the substance use disorder, you're working on the mentoring and education, and Fathers Forever Education University. So we're now strengthening people, especially our communities.
Right.
We're strengthening our men to go back out and be great men the leaders of our communities. We're re-engaging them or so say reacclimating them to their families and things like that. And you're doing the Fathers Forever classes, teaching them how to do those things. And now they have a healthy perspective on therapy, understanding some of the things they've gone through with trauma. And then lastly, when you start thinking about what does a healthy young man look like or an older man look, and the guidance they can give because they've been there. So now we're rehabilitating men and making them stronger. Now they can help also be part of that platform to keep young people off drugs and alcohol or the ways of living. So I think we're doing a great job. I think we just don't have enough resources and support. But even when you think about, and last, I want to give kudos to you, when you think about what you guys have done, when you look at housing, and we know that housing is a challenge, especially to our men coming out of incarceration of color. And when you give them stability, at least 90 days to come out and be able to get linked to services and social services, get linked to places for higher learning, education, and jobs and things like that, you make my job so much better because now we have a unity of purpose when we're working with that individual. Our goal is to lift them to be a better place and a better person.
Right. And the guys that we deal with, again, about 100% of them have some kind of disorder, whether it's mental or substance abuse. And to be able to give them that 90-day, 120-day window where they're going to be free from drugs. Yeah. We're going to give them services. We're going to show them how, what it is to be drug-free in that environment. If they don't become drug-free, they have to leave. Yeah. And so our partnership with you has been, you meet with the guys on a regular basis. You come here, they have classes. You go to the house, they have classes. And so our partnership with your agency has been a wonderful thing. And I think you really appreciate what you've been doing. So why don't you tell the audience, give them your contact information, give them your website and how they can access services to Sigma Healthcare.
Okay. And before I go to that, just to close, Mr. Warren, I want to say that you and I have had some good conversations, and we know that data tells a story. So one of the things, last but not least, is just to talk about, well, not even talk about, just highlight the fact that we're now looking at our data analysis. We're looking at our data to see how many people come through your program, how many people come to Sigma, how many people now came in with the type of challenge, and now look at where they are a year later and things like that. So looking at our data is going to continue to further our opportunities to serve more and help more. So I wanted to kind of tell you great things that you and I are both doing with the data.
The more we can teach them about the devastation of substance abuse and what it's doing to their families, especially to their kids, and you're trying to parent, it's bad enough for you to do it, but it's devastating, with domestic violence and all of that stuff. I also asked the guys, what is the most, we talk about the domestic violence in our class, and I said, what day of the year is the most domestic violence case reported? It's one day in a year. It's not a holiday. It's not a holiday.
Okay.
It's Super Bowl Sunday.
Super Bowl Sunday?
Yes.
Wow.
You know why? It's a combination. There's violence and then there's substance.
Okay.
There's drugs and alcohol.
Oh.
The violence is because I lost the game.
Okay.
I done lost the rent money. I done lost the car payment money.
I wouldn't go.
I done lost that. And now I'm intoxicated and I'm mad and she's in my face.
Okay.
So now the violence comes.
Oh, yeah.
So, you got a fire. If you got ignition and you got those three things that make a fire, you put all those things together, oxygen, putting those things together, you're going to have a fire. So now you got all three components.
Wow.
And when you put those components together, you have a fire.
Yeah, it's explosive.
It's explosive. And that's what happens. You got the alcohol, the drugs, and now you got the anger because you lost the rent money, and then the violence starts. And it really happened Super Bowl Sunday because most of the people are intoxicated.
Man, I learned something new today.
I'm telling you this. When I heard that, it blew me out of the water. But it makes sense. Substance abuse there are so many people, James, that's incarcerated now that did something while they was under the influence. They are nice people. They probably would have never done it had it not been under the influence.
Yeah, we see that. Yeah,
we see it all the time. And then, and now they messed up the rest of their life because they done hit somebody, they done killed somebody because they driving drunk. They done something really, really crazy. And because you don't have control of your temper that much when you get intoxicated, and they say you don't, so it's bad. So substance abuse, but it's good to anyway. I kind of go off on another tangent, but I want you to give your
contact information and let people know how they can access you. And I know you take Medicaid and Medicare, but you can explain all of that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you again, Dr. Warren. So Sigma Health Services, to get in contact with us and make a referral, you can go to www.sigmahealthservices.com, or you can call our main office number at 919-848-9108. And one of our managers or intake specialists will be more than happy to help you. We take all major insurances, most all major insurances, and Medicaid, Medicare. So we also provide a sliding scale fee. But more importantly, please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to try to make sure that we can accommodate your needs or make sure we refer you to an appropriate referral.
Here's 3 ways you can support our Dads at a Distance initiative. Give a copy to a family member, our friend. Donate monthly, a book monthly, 5 books monthly, how many books you want to do monthly donation. Reverse book signing, your church, your business. You can make a donation go to our website at www.afatherforever.com and go to our PayPal at Fathers Forever. Our Cash App is $Fathers Forever. Make your donation today. Please include in the note section, include DAAD. Again, include in the note section DAAD. I really enjoyed today's episode of Chatting Jew about substance abuse has really plagued our neighborhoods and our communities for a long, long time. It's gotten worse, especially post-COVID, during COVID. And now we are dealing with not only the ongoing substance abuse, but because of COVID, how it added to that picture. And I'm really excited about James Ward and his company and what he brings to the table. And I really encourage our viewers to, if you have somebody who is struggling with substance abuse, who needs some help, please, by all means, you got James' contact information, call him. Him and his wonderful staff are very capable people. They've been doing this for a long time. They know how to help people get help. And so I'm very excited about it. Again, go back and listen to the broadcast again and share it with your neighbors, share it with your friends. Again, share it with people who are, that are struggling with substance abuse and the devastating effects they have on our kids. It's an old saying, and I don't quite know who says it. I think it's Maya Angelou. It says, when we know better, we do better. So I think that's something that James and his team can offer us as a community. Well, we certainly appreciate you all for spending your lunch hour with us. We know you could have been anywhere else doing anything else, but you chose to dine with us instead. If you didn't find your lunch filling, hopefully the knowledge you learned in this broadcast will keep you mindful until your next meal. Once again, please be sure to leave us with your comments. Let us know how we did. If there's any topic you would like us to discuss, or there's any of the guests you want us to have to bring on the show, or if you would like to be a part of the show, please call or visit our website at www.afatherforever.com or call us at area code 919-779-9905. The Chat and Chew broadcast streams every Thursday at 12 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much. Have a good day.